Welcome to Blood, Sweat, and Beers Face-Off, Episode 4. Welcome, gentlemen. We appreciate you both giving us a little bit of time here in our fourth episode of Face-Off. We want to welcome Fiji Cool Breezy, Keith Smith, our one-time champion. And we want to welcome back Poncho. John, as a two-time champion, he gets an extra go at this, one extra appearance. So we appreciate.
I would like to have my section sponsored by Fancy Bottled Water.
Noted. Do you get checks for that, or do you have to pay them for that?
I pay them.
Oh yeah, okay.
I get bills, not checks.
I guess that makes sense. Well, before we get into any specific questions or anything, I wanted to ask you guys how you were feeling about the season. John, you kind of got to answer that a couple of weeks ago. It's a few weeks later. But Keith, how you feeling? Is COVID really throwing a wrench into things, or does it just kind of feel like just kind of more of the same?
It kind of makes the feeling, the vibe in the league a little different, but it hasn't really impacted. I had one, I think, situation with that it could have impacted, one of my games, but it's just a mentality. I was more open, and I think we're going to get into this changes and different things. It seems like this year would have been a good year to implement different things. But as far as the team, I'm happy with what's going on so far, considering what I've had to endure. So I'm good.
Okay. Well, you always have to endure something.
Yep.
It's never easy.
That's true. Yep. Either conspiracy or injuries or,
It's always, well, that could be the same thing.
Well, yeah, it was one year when you drafted injured players for me, but let's not get off into that tangent.
Oh, sorry. Did I lead you? Did I bait that? Okay.
Yes, you did.
So John, a couple of weeks later, after you got to comment on that earlier, how are you feeling?
Hey, I'm feeling pretty good, especially with the 1 week I really got hit bad by this. I actually beat the reigning champion. So, hey, I'll take that.
Okay. So I guess, we were all kind of concerned about how this was going to play out, COVID and that. And honestly, it just feels like kind of the same old thing, right? It's a slightly different variation, but you still got to be paying attention. And as long as you do that, you're okay. So, okay. Sounds good. Well, let's get into some questions here. We were talking about league rules. That's come up the last two episodes. Keith, you kind of led into that just a little bit. It seems like we're a little divided. Some are in favor of wholesale changes. Some are stuck in the mud. I put myself in the mud too. That's okay. So Keith, how are you feeling? You want to make some changes?
This year, I was open for anything, all sorts of changes. But if you check our chat history, I'm sure you'd see I was against probably most of the changes people are suggesting. I'm a purist, I guess. I kind of like the basic original type rules and very little changes. But this year, I'm willing, I'd be willing to give almost anything a try. Overall, and this doesn't have anything to do with this season, but I don't like large leagues. Everybody's talking about bringing 12 teams in. I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, I don't like 12-team leagues. It dilutes the talent. And I know you guys think, well, that's where the real managing comes in or whatever, but I don't want to be drafting Henry Williamson or Tommy Spivey or some other unknown player that we've never heard of, or or looking to pick him up as a free agent. I'm not interested in it. I like studs and people that we've heard of. I'm not interested in 12-team leagues. It's just not enough talent in the NFL for fantasy to make fantasy interesting at that point. My personal opinion, I know everybody's probably against that. They say that's where where you find the real league managers and stuff like that. But I'm not interested in that.
But you mentioned, so Keith, you mentioned the changes for this year. Isn't it kind of a slippery slope though? If we put a change in and we said, well, it's for the COVID year and things were to go back to normal next year, aren't we kind of stuck with whatever changes we made?
No, I don't think so. Not if it's clear to everyone that we're already making changes this year that's only going to be for COVID. So I don't see that at all. There's just by just because of this year being special, or that's a bad word for a pandemic, but this year being different, there's already rules that we have to kind of go by with the injured. We added, I think, an injured reserve spot, and there'll probably have to be some sort of concession. But we may make up rules as we go along, as things change. We don't know what's going to happen before the season's over with. So I don't think it's a given that it's going to be a rule next year as well.
Okay. So adding the IR spot's the only real rule change we've made, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah, I guess we've talked about it a lot, but that's probably the only active thing.
What are the odds that IR spot sticks and we have it again next year?
I already like it. So
You like it already?
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
So that supports my slippery slope theory that anything that we put in place to help with COVID is very likely to just roll into next year rather than revert back. So I see what you're saying. And I think halfway through or quarter of the way through the season, we probably missed our window to make a bunch of changes. But you're in favor of the cheese pizza next year.
Cheese pizza.
The basic.
Is this one of those?
The basic, plain.
Oh, okay. See, that's one I wanted my topic to talk about these chats that I'm not, grasping.
Okay.
That's a perfect example. That's a perfect example. When we get that, I want to explain my point of view of all these. But yes, I'm in favor of the cheese pizza for next year.
Okay. So that sounds all right. So John, you want to weigh in? You didn't get a chance the first time, but you want to weigh in on potential changes to the league?
Yeah, I think that any good league is going to adjust however they need to adjust. I don't want to make the game unfun. I think it was Aaron who said that, when he does his 15 to 30 minutes a week, he doesn't want to put this extra work in. He doesn't want it to be a chore. He wants it to be fun. And I certainly agree with that. I think that there are a few small things that we could change that specifically going from half point to full point reception. I think that's just a natural progression of the game. I think that makes it a little more exciting. I think it makes it a little more realistic. We went halfway when we should have either stayed no or went full.
Agreed.
And it was just a baby step that we needed. I don't think that the IR is necessarily a bad thing. Assuming that the league sticks with the fact that people can come back from IR, maybe more than one, because it's a little difficult when they only were doing one a year. I think that was a big sticking point for me when you only had one player you could bring back, and then they went to two, I think, last year. And now there's just hilly-nilly for the COVID season. You can come and go as you please after like 3 or 4 weeks. So I think that might be something that we should look at staying. I'm not full locked in on it, but I'd be willing to think about that. And there are a few little things here and there. When we expanded one player a few years ago, we added one extra bench player because we all felt that was something. I don't think that takes away from the game, and I don't think it changes a whole lot. But I think that the focus needs to be on a fun, simple game. And I'm not looking for 12 people either. I have said that in the past before, but I do understand the compromise needs to be made. And I think 10 people is probably the sweet spot. I think 12 would make it probably a little too competitive for a lot of the people and might actually diminish some people's enjoyment. Yes. But I hate the eight-person league because it's a crapshoot every week. You can have 10 superstars on your team and score, 180 points. And then you have, people who don't show up and you get 40. So.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's just the flip side of the coin. In a deeper league, you get one guy, your stud running back, for instance, gets hurt and goes down, and you got to throw somebody in there you're not likely to get unless you already drafted his handcuff, which you can't draft all the handcuffs, right?
Right.
You're going to throw somebody in there, and it's like your stud guy not showing up because it's just some lame guy that Spivey, I think you said, you put one of those guys in there. But anyway, yeah, no, I understand. I think 10 tends to be the sweet spot there. So hopefully, as we talk more about it this year and roll into next year, we won't wait until like 3 days before the draft to try to propose some changes and some things. Hopefully after 12 seasons, we will have kind of figured out that we need to get a little ahead of it. But We'll see. Okay, sounds good. So I really wanted to have this conversation. I thought it was an important discussion to have. There's a lot of different thoughts, theories behind, strategizing your team where you draft. Everybody says running backs, but then if you draft late in a snake, maybe you go for one of the wide receivers, one of the top wide receivers there. The 3 quarterback strategy is always interesting to me. But Keith, what do you think about the 3 quarterback strategy, rostering 3 quarterbacks on a fantasy team?
When I first saw this, I didn't understand it. I don't see the logic in it, at least in the way I play. So I'm willing to hear pros against it, but I don't know how that would be. I don't see how that would be a good strategy. Maybe if you're down low, you draft quarterbacks late. But if you've got a stud, you have to play your stud quarterback every week, unless there's a bye. So I personally am open to hearing it. Maybe someone can open my eyes to the strategy of playing, having 3 quarterbacks. There's some people that don't draft the defense. They pick whatever, they go manage the defense based on who's playing who. I don't do that. I draft a decent defense if it's available. But I don't know the logic behind that. So you guys tell me what's the prevailing argument for?
That is a really good question. As the only league owner or team owner in our league that has 3 quarterbacks on their roster, John, why don't you share with us the strategy behind that?
Well, the strategy is that I don't normally carry 3 quarterbacks. Although this year I had the opportunity to pick up my 3rd quarterback, and I just grabbed him mostly just to stash him away from the rest of the league, because I wasn't quite sure exactly how the rest of the league's quarterbacks were going to play out. And for at least for a time period, I had number 3, 5, and 7 quarterbacks in the whole league, which I thought is a nice place to stash people away and potentially keep points from coming against me. And it seems to be working okay, because I have one of the better, I'm not in like the top 2, but I think I'm like number 3 or 4 on points against. And so I like to think that maybe that might have taken away from somebody else's quarterback and maybe have kept them from scoring against me. It's not been the problem why I've been losing, because I've certainly been losing in plenty of other fashions. So it hasn't been my problem yet, although I don't think it's a viable solution to keep all 3 quarterbacks for all year. I think that's just...
So you're the reason I have Gardner Minshew starting this week.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I understand that point of view.
My
I do
entire
understand
point
that.
was to steal it, is to steal. I saw the opportunity to have 3 top 10 quarterbacks in an 8-person league, and I thought, this is a really good way to stick it to somebody else.
Okay, and you did.
And yet, Keith, you have a better record than John.
Yeah, I couldn't afford to draft 3 quarterbacks. I'm having to drop quality players just to fill in for an injury. So kudos to you for being able to have that spot available to do that and still compete. There's no way I could do that.
Well, you could argue that I'm not really competing that well.
You could definitely make that argument. And I guess that was the question there. So, you can stash players, and I'm all in favor of doing that. I've done that already this year, where if you've got a higher waiver order than somebody that you're playing coming up maybe the next week, or somebody who, had an injury and they're going to be out shopping for instance, the handcuffs of Dalvin Cook, you grab him, even though he doesn't do anything for you the next week. You grab him because you're going to keep anybody else from having him, and stick it to the guy who now is down a stud running back.
Yeah, I did that too.
I get that. Yeah. Well, he didn't, and that didn't help you either, did it?
It didn't help me at all. He got 3 points.
Probably hurt you a little bit. It's interesting, the 3 quarterback strategy. I understand drafting 3 quarterbacks, especially if you've got big names and you had big names, and then trying to get something good like draft or trading one of them after the draft, but holding on to them 5 weeks into the season. Now I start to question, could you have maybe made better use of 1 or 2 of those roster spots, grabbed somebody who would have provided points. Points on the bench makes no difference, right?
No,
And you needed points in the game.
I
So
did.
that's why I wanted to throw that out there and just understand where you were coming from with that.
And Keith may not
You
know
had plenty
that,
of points on the
that
bench.
yeah, Keith may not know that the commish actually offered me a running back, which I did desperately need for one of those quarterbacks. And I did turn him down. And that's
Wow.
what he's getting at.
Well,
Wow.
no, not necessarily. I mean, hinting at that just a little bit, but you were in desperate need of some name running backs, and I offered you my second best running back, and for a bench quarterback. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's Aaron Rodgers or Matt Ryan, right? If they're gonna ride the bench, then that doesn't do you any good.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's do topic of your choice. I'm really interested. I know everyone else is very interested to hear from you, Keith. What's on your mind?
I'm really not that interesting, so I don't know why everybody wants to hear from me. But I wanted to give you guys a look into the loneliness that I feel. I know we're united, we speak the pure language, and we're part of this united brotherhood. But when it comes to sports and pop culture and different things like that, I'm kind of left out of the conversation. So, I mean, I don't get a lot of the references and a lot of the, is it GIF or GIFs, whatever you prefer. I don't get a lot of those.
That's a conversation all in its own.
That is, however you want to say it.
Well, I don't get a lot of those and movie references, and which is strange because according to John, I'm the whitest black guy that he knows. So you would think I'd fit right in and I'd pick up all these things, but apparently I'm not that white because I don't get a lot of it. And part of it's probably because I'm not able to do things in real time. So I have a choice. I've got to read through 40 texts and and I may skip over something that may be crucial to understanding what the point is way down at the bottom. So it could be that, I'll have to admit that, but it's really lonely when you guys start talking. And then I'll try to put my little 2 cents in on something. I think I'm doing a good job contributing and it just goes completely over that. So I was like, okay, I guess that was unnecessary comment. And then, so I wound up just watching you guys. So I just wanted to give you an inside view of the loneliness that I sometimes experience. So sometimes I'll go to John, who I know very dearly, one of my dearest friends, and on the side, I'll have to send him a separate text, and he'll kind of explain things, what's going on, if I think I missed something important. So, I mean, I just wanted to give y'all a little kind of a view into my world. So maybe next time, if you think of dusting off that old obscure reference that that only you and everybody knows except me, maybe you'll kind of explain it a little bit more so that I'll be able to enjoy it and laugh too. So, but anyway, that was my one topic I wanted to address. So,
well, let me
Is
just
skimming messages lazy?
repeat that, please.
Is skimming messages lazy or just
Okay.
disinterested?
No, well, it depends on what time you get the message. If I'm sitting in front of my computer, and sometimes I can't engage, and I do, but sometimes you're busy all day, and by the time you pick up your phone, you're looking at 40 messages on there, and it's almost bedtime. And remember, we're in different time zones, so you guys can go on after I'm getting ready to go to bed. And so is that lazy because I want to go to sleep and there's 40 messages in there? You tell me, is that lazy or practical?
I don't think that was the question. It wasn't real. Is it lazy to not read them real time? We understand the time difference. I forget that it's 3 hours at this point. So if we send stuff and you don't get it till the next morning, hey, that's totally fine. I think the question was, if you get them the next morning and you just skim them instead of reading them, is that lazy? Or just disinterested?
I guess it could be.
Or disinterested?
Well, yeah, I would prefer disinterested because some of the things I don't understand, I've already said that. So it may be, I think it's more being disinterested and not understanding and then being disinterested.
But let me ask you, and I totally understand where you're coming from. You get a little lost and then it's like, how much effort do I want to put into really understanding some of these random references? You mentioned the cheese pizza. When I said you want the cheese pizza and you were kind of confused. What was it about that particular reference that you didn't understand?
this is a little embarrassing, but I didn't get the reason for the pizza came into the conversation as I was skimming through. As I was skimming through, I saw some arguments made about different toppings, which I felt strongly about because you can't read into those. You can't, so I missed the point of cheese pizza being basic. But now that I'm thinking back, I do remember you made a good point of making a nice reference. And so that part's on me. That's my fault. The cheese pizza, missing that part. But I was so wrapped up because I have strong feelings about toppings on pizza. So I totally missed your point and forgot about it until just this moment.
And you got to remember too that we've got some guys who are related in the league. So Joey and Billy are cousins.
Okay, I have a question then. I see Alex. Is Alex Billy?
Alex Billy?
We don't know.
So Alex is Billy.
Yes.
Alex Billy.
Alex Billy. Anyway, so don't feel too left out. Just know that very likely if a comment's made, a reference is made, and you don't get it, somebody else doesn't get it either.
Okay.
Right.
I'll have to keep telling myself that.
There you go. And feel free to ask John for any sort of clarification.
And I do.
So John, anything that you wanted to add? Anything on your mind additional to what we've already discussed?
Yeah, what's that sound? Oh, it's the death knell. The death knell of Josephine Wilmot. He has been replaced by Karen Wilmot. I don't know what happened. Well, Joey went nuts yesterday. Here we are, everybody's expecting to pick on Keith. Everybody's like, we got a system going here. And Joey's like, wait, no, pick on me instead. And, it kind of goes with Keith's point too, because, Keith's like, I don't get the reference. Joey obviously doesn't own a dictionary.
Or a smartphone.
Yeah. Or Google.
Right. All right, gentlemen, any wild projections here? Anybody that you think is going to be in serious contention for the championship? We've asked that before. No one gives a straight answer. It becomes this random rundown of, well, this team this and this team that. That's not what I'm asking. Do you have a team or two that you're pretty sure will be in the championship game? Keith, what do you think?
Oh, we're talking fantasy, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Well, hey, I'll put it out there. I put my team, Cool Breeze. I think I have one of the better teams, certainly in our division, but I think in the league, if healthy, I think I can compete with anybody. So I'll put myself up there. I'll say at the end of things, I think I'm going to be there. I think I'll be competing for and representing the blue division or conference, however you look at it, and maybe against. I think if Joey's team plays, I think he's going to be in. So,
all right, calls his own name.
two.
There you go. You got Fiji Cool Breezy and Amy's Excuse fighting for the championship. Interesting. John, what do you say?
I like Keith's reasoning on that, and I'm going to say that today's game, me and Alexander William, that's the final. And I think I take him by at least 60 points in the final.
In the final, obviously not
today.
Right.
Yeah, today, no, maybe not. But this is just a preview of the final.
I got you. Well, not a good preview for you since, neither one of you, I guess, both struggling. But okay, well, there we go. I guess we'll see what Vegas puts down as far as betting lines on those being the championship matchups, but we'll have to see. So appreciate all of your thoughts. Appreciate all of the effort that you put in. Keith, keep trying. It's fun when you try.